Welcome to another episode of Steve in his basement. Anyway, that's my theater behind me. Lots of fun. Lots of fun to be had because we are planning to watch the greatest movie of all time again, Speed, with Keanu Reeves, of course. It is really the greatest movie of all time. It follows the greatest storyline of all time, has all the great elements in it, and basically when the producers were writing it, they basically said, yeah, we just need to film it. That's what they did. Winning. Anyway, that being said, Speed is an action movie. And how the hell do you get the balls to drive a bus across a 50-foot gap on a highway to save everybody miraculously and, not knowing if you're going to die or not or whatever, right? And that's the thing. I think Speed is a good example of what I'm just going to share here, which is something I also experienced today. So my friend Nadim and now colleague Nadim hit me with something today, which threw me for a loop. And I get that a lot because I'm a pretty sensitive guy. And not really, but I have my moments. And basically what was given to my plate was kind of a structure and an outline of how best to run an online program. And specifically an online program to help other people who also have online programs help people better and more effectively, because there's lots of people that want to help people and a lot of them are ill-equipped to be able to help people. And so I said, well, I've figured out some stuff in my life and maybe I could do something like that and that'd be cool. And he hit me with that today and I was really kind of overwhelmed by it. And I guess some people can resonate with that. It's kind of like when you get a new opportunity and you're like, oh crap, that sounds awesome, but I don't know how that feels, right? Anyway, so your feels aren't good, right? It's like, you're coming up to the 50-foot gap in the freeway and it's like, is this bus gonna make it? Holy crap, better floor this son of a, and then they make it and the movie's awesome and all that stuff, right? Anyway, that being said, here's what I believe. I've come to observe this in my life, and I've observed this in the people that I work with. And I'm so thankful to be able to work with people on a somewhat regular basis, because they teach me a lot about where people go in their minds and where I've wanted to go in my processes and to make things simpler and easier to work with. And so one of these things is fear. And there's tons of stuff on the internet about fear. And there's tons of ways to dissolve fear and interpret fear and all sorts of other stuff. And I'm just going to sayonara. Fuck off. Here's the thing. As my Wi-Fi says, I'm going to censor your ass. Okay. Just delete fear. And I proved this to myself today, that it's possible to do it. So here's what you do. I'm gonna give this one away. First, feel it. So first, feel it. It's like it's one of those moments in the morning where you're like, wow, that's like a manual for success right there. So that means everything I could possibly want is possible. Oh shit, and then you're like immediately confronted with this sense of like, oh, you mean I could do that? I could get what I want? Oh shit. Because why would we ever go in an oh shit situation when we're going to get what we want? It's because change is afoot. And most people are just really bad at change. Here's the thing. I really believe this at this point in my life. I really do. This has become like a pretty baseline, fucking fundamental personal philosophy in my life. And that is that nobody has a personal issue. Nobody has a psychological issue. Nobody has something that they need to fucking personally develop themselves on. Now, that's a bold statement, so I'm going to be wrong in certain cases, of course. But here's why I tend to believe that. Because most people just are scared of change. And being scared of change is in no way related to your development as an individual. It just means you're scared of change. And that's okay. Does that make sense? Hey, Ella. So people are just bad at this. And so we got to ask why that is. Like, why are you scared of change? Why are most people just scared of change? And we can come up with a million fucking reasons, right? And that's part of the fucking weirdness of the coaching and personal development industry and all that stuff. Because everyone likes to have their own interpretation, including me. And that all resonates with somebody, which is great. But my perception is that we can just break it down to very simple things. People are scared of change because they have a perception of a gain or a loss, which is just somehow either unmanaged, unacknowledged, or is subconsciously acknowledged, which means they know it, and it's too overwhelming to deal with. So it's like, nope, I'm going to just fear the fuck out of that. And nope, and I'm going to self-sabotage. I'm going to feel not good, and I'm going to diminish my brain power, and I'm going to freak out, and I'm going to, this, that, and complain, and blah, blah, blah. Do my drugs. Anyway. So how do you get out of this? How do you get out of fear? By deleting it. How do you delete fear? Okay. Well, first, take the time to write down your fear. Write it down. What am I scared of? What am I scared of changing? I think that's a really good question because there's a specific kind of vector in it. What are you scared of changing? For me today, to be honest, it was, well, you know what? If I ended up, having an online program, being able to sell and stuff like that, and if I had clients coming in left, right, and center, I'm scared I might lose control of my time. Meaning, I might have less time with family. I might have less time with musical stuff. I might this, and all this stuff comes up. I'm like, okay, great. Let's write it all down. I could also have this, and I could also have this. And I wrote down about 3 things. And then I kind of looked at it and I said, well, hang on, is any of this really rational? Because, yeah, I could lose time, but, who fucking decides, right? I decide. So why would I decide an outcome that I don't like? That makes no sense at all. So that fear is not even relevant. It's not a real thing. So then I'm like, is that true in all cases? And I started to go into that, and I thought about it. And I'm like, well, I got this fear, and this fear, and this fear, and this fear, and that's a vulnerable share. And they were real to me. I felt them on my body. I'm like, there seemed to be real things. And it's like, no, each one of those is an unmanaged perception of a future outcome, which I'm somehow not giving myself the authority to decide about it. So then I looked at that and I said, well, what is it really? Because if it's just an undecided task, right? If fear is just an undecided task, for example, or an unmanaged outcome, then why would anybody feel? And if I'm speaking to you, you know who you are. Why would anybody feel like they can't move forward to accomplish the said thing that they could easily manage? Why go into the fear? And if the fear is not even real, why go there? Why doesn't the mind go there? That's been a deep question in my life. And there's a lot of people that talk about the animal nature and the animal instinct, and the first thing to do is fear because you never know what's around the corner and that kind of thing. And that's true. But that's the part which bugged me today. And I was like, yeah, there could be a snake under that rock, but there could be a gold fucking ring. Yeah, there could be a snake. Yeah, but there could be a friggin' treasure, right? And so there's 2 sides to that. And then I said, well, maybe I'll get more time. Like, what if my fear is the opposite? What if I had more time with family? What if I had more time with music? What if I had more of everything that I want instead of more of what I don't want, right? And I'm like, well, that's interesting, because it would seem that is entirely possible if I just organize it right and decide, right? Because who's going to decide? I'm going to decide. Okay, so then what's up with that? And that's when I realized something really interesting, which is that fear can be deleted. So you write down your fear, and then you just look at it and say, and what if the opposite happened? So, this is an assignment for you guys. Take out your notepads right now. Write down your fear. And then ask yourself, what if the opposite happened? So what if you got everything that you wanted? What if it wasn't I'm going to really miss that time I keep spending and I wouldn't get any more, that's for sure. What if it was I'll have an abundant amount of time? Right? Why not? And then just go into that and then ask yourself, and what would that, like, how meaningful would that be to have more time there? And I asked myself that question today, and it took me not more than 3 minutes to realize a part of my personal philosophy, which I acted out this morning, which was that we don't fear. We're not scared of things. What we do is we want outcomes that we don't actually appreciate. We want outcomes that we don't actually appreciate. Here's the thing, and this is one of my pet peeves with this coaching shit. You're hungry, right? What do? You go get something to eat. Was that really hard? No, it was an easy fucking decision, and you were totally capable of doing it, and you did it, right? Which means there was a change in your system, and you fucking decided, you did something about it, and now this problem's gone. Which means you have the most incredible capacity to change very quickly when all the situations are right. You know you're capable, you know you want the result, you know the pain of not having it, and it all seems to work, right? So then why do people, including myself, sometimes perpetually suffer under this crazy perception that I can't get what I want, or I'm not getting what I want, or this or that? And yeah, there's a big values game in that. There's a part of your personal identity. It's just not right with that outcome. You've got a fantasy going on. That's part of it. At the same time, though, if you have a fantasy that you've been holding on to for 8 years, 10 years, 20 years, whatever, that's a pretty important fantasy. There's got to be a reason that you made it up, right? So there's something in it you want. But then the question is, if I'm so good at getting food, or if I'm so good at brushing my teeth or putting on clothes or whatever, if I'm so good at staring at my phone for 5 minutes to talk to somebody, why am I having a difficulty in this other area, right? I really think it comes down to a lack of acknowledgement of who you could become if you got what you want. There's an unappreciated dynamic happening there. And if you think about it, anything you appreciate, you tend to take care of. So thus, if you don't appreciate it, why would you, A, take care of it? And if you don't appreciate it, why would you even want it? Acting out in a way which makes you think you're incapable, which then gets you to look at your future and say, that's fucked. And in reality, you could just... I think we're back now. Take your fear, write it down. What if the opposite were true? Why would that be important to me? Who or what might that help me become more of, which I want? And you could create a whole bunch of other questions off that. But those basic things just today, if you're really honest with yourself and you really go into it and you just pause for a second and give yourself that moment to face your fear, which is a feeling, by the way, and just look at it and say, what if the opposite were true? What would that mean? Why would that be important? How could that maybe benefit me if the opposite happened? And you could also go on this side of it, which is, why do I deserve it? What am I going to do for it? So you convince yourself that you have your capabilities. I've found in my life, and I can be like one of the best complainers on the planet. That's a skill I have very well. I'm also very skilled at not focusing. I'm also very skilled at being lazy. That's all relative judgment. you know, and not getting things done that appear to be important but are not to me. So these are my challenges, which are not really challenges. They're just assumptions that I should be acting out in a different way than I want to be. Anyway, all that said, we all have emotions. We all have feelings that show up when we are about to initiate in change, or the potentiality of change. And that's the funniest part, is that change doesn't happen instantly. I mean, everything's changing relatively, but like big change usually happens very traumatically, or if it's constructed over a period of time. And so our feeling then can totally trap us and distort us into an idealism, which is not true. My suggestion, which I did today, which is write down your fear. What if the opposite were true? And why would that be important to me if that happened? And who would it help me become? How would it help me as a person and my dynamic or whatever else I care about? And do I have the proper evidence to support the idea that I'm fully capable of accomplishing and receiving that goal and that gift? And I've found in my life that I've gotten more done, and I've given myself more respect, and I've given myself more permission, and I've given myself more freedom emotionally, and I've given myself more freedom creatively, and I've given myself more opportunities to learn and develop myself and my body and my mind and my talents and my empathy and compassion and the way I feel for people. All of this has gone up, and the more challenges that I take on, and the more big and inspiring and innately challenging my goals become, the more that I honor and respect the capacities that I have. My capability, my copability, I guess, or responsibility in that sense. It just goes up, right? So you might as well just enhance that skill and get really good at saying and acknowledging what you're good at. Because when you have a nice bank of that built up, then it's like change is less drastic, because you're like, I can do that. 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 Right? So take fear, acknowledge it. It's just a feeling. Write it down. What if the opposite happened? Why would that be important to you? And stop and really answer that. Really, really answer it. Don't stop until you get like tears of inspiration pouring like a fucking shower out of your eyes. Because if you just pause and get present with it, it can. That's been my experience for a long time in my life, and especially today once I looked at this. I said, yeah, I don't fear fear. I fear actually getting what I want. Because it's like fucking triggering, yeah? Think about that. What if tomorrow you got what you wanted? How's that feel? I hope it feels good. Anyway, food for thought, yes? Let me know what you think. Anyway, Friday night. Time for bed.